The long hallway of Pinewood Memorial Hospital's north wing was silent, except for the squeaking of Megan White's shoes on the polished floor. Most staff avoided this section, nicknamed the abandoned ward. Budget cuts had left it understaffed and nearly forgotten, housing only patients with little hope of recovery or those waiting for transfer to specialized facilities. Megan checked her assignment sheet again and sighed. Patient 37, the baby no one wanted to talk about. First day in the ghost ward, huh? A male nurse with tired eyes and a coffee-stained badge reading Frank Collins leaned against the nurse's station. Got stuck with the weird one too. Bad luck. What's so weird about a baby? Megan asked, flipping through the thin medical file. The information was sparse. Male infant, approximately 6 months old, discovered at the hospital entrance 3 months ago, with no identification except a worn bracelet. With strange markings, multiple developmental issues listed, severe neurological impairments noted. Frank shrugged. That thing gives everyone the creeps. Just sits there, never cries, barely moves. Eyes follow you around the room, though. He tapped the file. We do, the minimum. Feed, change, basic vitals. Administration's been trying to transfer him somewhere else, but paperwork keeps getting held up. He has a name, right? Not just patient 37? Nope. That's all he is. Room 414, end of the hall. Call button doesn't work in there, so yell if you need anything. Frank turned back to his crossword puzzle, clearly dismissing her. Megan had transferred from pediatric intensive care after her divorce. The abandoned ward wasn't her first choice, but it was the only position available on night shift. She needed the night differential pay to cover her new apartment rent. Room 414 was dimly lit by a single lamp. The monitoring equipment looked outdated compared to what she was used to in the PICU. In the corner crib lay a small figure, unnaturally still. "Hello there," Megan said softly, approaching the crib. "I'm Nurse White. I'll be taking care of you tonight." The baby was smaller than expected for 6 months, with pale skin that seemed almost translucent under the weak light. His limbs were thin, positioned awkwardly as if he had little muscle control. But it was his eyes that caught Megan's attention, large, dark, and entirely too alert. They fixed on her immediately, tracking her movement with an intensity that seemed impossible for an infant with severe neurological impairments. Megan checked his vitals, noting them in the chart. Temperature slightly below normal but stable. Heart rate regular but slow. Respiration even. "You're due for a feeding and change," she told him, keeping her voice gentle and conversational the way she always did with her patients, regardless of their ability to respond. "Let's get you cleaned up first." As she changed his diaper, she noticed faint marks on his skin, geometric patterns almost like birthmarks, forming shapes she couldn't quite identify. They weren't mentioned in his file. She made a mental note to document them later. The baby never fussed during the change, never cried when she moved his stiff limbs. He simply watched her, blinking rarely. "You're very good," she commented. "Most babies your age would be screaming the place down by now." She prepared his feeding, a specialized formula according to the care plan. As she brought the bottle to his lips, his tiny hand suddenly moved, fingers splaying out toward the ceiling lights. Megan paused, surprised by the deliberate movement that contradicted his diagnosis. "So you can move when you want to," she said quietly. "What else can you do that nobody's noticed?" For a moment she could have sworn the baby's lips curved into a slight smile. The feeding went smoothly, though she noticed he consumed less than the amount noted in previous shifts. She wondered if the other nurses had been recording accurate information or just filling in expected numbers. As her shift continued, Megan checked on her other patients. 3 elderly individuals in persistent vegetative states, and 1 middle-aged man recovering from a traumatic brain injury. None required the attention she found herself wanting to give patient 37. Around midnight, the lights in the north wing flickered briefly. The hospital's backup generators hummed to life for a few seconds before the main power stabilized. Megan was checking medication cards when it happened, and she immediately went to check on the baby. In room 414, during those few seconds of dimmed lighting, something strange happened. The geometric markings on the baby's skin seemed to glow with a faint bluish light, When full power returned, the effect vanished so quickly, Megan questioned if she had imagined it. She approached the crib slowly. "That was interesting," she whispered. The baby's eyes locked onto hers with that same unnerving focus. Megan reached for her phone to use its flashlight for a better look at the markings. As she held it over the baby, the screen glitched, showing a series of numbers and symbols before returning to normal. She tried to take a photo, but each attempt produced only blurred images. "Megan? Everything okay in here?" Frank stood in the doorway. Power surge got the monitors acting up at the station. "Fine," she said, slipping her phone back into her pocket. "Just checking on him after the lights flickered." Frank glanced at the baby with obvious discomfort. "That thing give him. You the creeps yet? Swear it's like he's studying us." "He's just a baby, Frank," Megan said firmly, though she couldn't completely dismiss the strange feeling the infant gave her. A sick baby at that. He needs proper care, not to be treated like some kind of oddity. Your funeral. Just do the minimum. And clock out, that's my advice. Frank lingered in the doorway. "Oh, Dr. Peters might stop by tomorrow. He's the only doctor who still checks on this one regularly. Neurologist, bit of a weirdo himself." After Frank left, Megan completed her assessment of patient 37. She couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this baby than his file suggested. The way he watched her seemed purposeful, intelligent even. At the end of her shift, Megan updated the baby's chart with detailed notes about his condition, the markings on his skin, and the exact amounts he had consumed, all things previous nurses had documented only vaguely. As she prepared to leave, she returned to room 414 one last time. The baby was awake, those large eyes finding her immediately. "I'll be back tomorrow night," she told him, adjusting his blanket. "And we're going to figure out what's really going on with you." As she turned off the main light, leaving only the small night lamp, Megan glanced back from the doorway. For just a moment in the dimness, she could have sworn the patterns on the baby's skin pulsed once with that strange blue light. Something was definitely not right about patient 37. And unlike the others, Megan was determined to find out what it was. 2 weeks passed since Megan White began working in the abandoned ward of Pinewood Memorial Hospital. Each night, she spent extra time with patient 37, the strange infant that other staff avoided. She had started keeping a private notebook about her observations, separate from the official medical charts. Tonight, Megan entered room 414 with a small music player. She had read studies about music therapy helping children with neurological issues. "Good evening, little one," she said as she approached the crib. As always, those dark, alert eyes found her immediately. "I brought something for us to try tonight." She set the music player on the table beside the crib and selected a gentle classical piece. As the soft music filled the room, Megan checked the baby's vitals. Everything was stable, though still not quite normal by typical infant standards. "Your temperature is always a bit cool," she murmured, "but consistent." When she reached for her phone to make notes, it turned on by itself. The screen flickered through several apps before opening her notes application. A string of numbers appeared: 47, 22, 89, 16, 73, 05, 41. What in the world? Megan stared at the numbers, then at the baby. This wasn't the first time her phone had behaved strangely around patient 37. Last week, her camera had activated on its own 3 times, and once her calculator app had opened and filled with complex equations she didn't recognize. She jotted down the numbers in her notebook. The same thing had happened yesterday, but with a different sequence. Megan was beginning to suspect these weren't random glitches. The baby made a small sound, almost like a sigh. When Megan looked down, she noticed the geometric patterns on his skin seemed more pronounced tonight, faint lines connecting in complex ways across his thin chest. "What are you?" she whispered. "Because I'm starting to think you're not just a baby with health problems." The door opened, startling her. A tall man with glasses and rumpled clothes entered, carrying a medical tablet. "You must be the new knight." "Nurse," he said, extending his hand. "Dr. Alan Peters, neurology. I check on our little mystery patient once a week. Megan White, she replied, shaking his hand. You're the only doctor who visits him regularly, from what I hear. Dr. Peters approached the crib, his expression softening. Hello there, number 37. Still watching everything, I see. He turned to Megan. Have you noticed anything unusual during your shifts? Megan hesitated. She didn't want to sound crazy, but Dr. Peters seemed genuinely interested in the baby. A few things, she admitted. The marks on his skin sometimes seem to glow when the lights are dim, and my phone acts strange whenever I'm near him. Apps open by themselves and numbers appear. Instead of dismissing her, Dr. Peters looked intrigued. Numbers? What kind of numbers? Megan showed him her notebook. Different sequences each time, and last week all the monitoring equipment in the room displayed impossible readings for about 30 seconds. Dr. Peters studied her notes, his eyebrows rising. These aren't random, he said quietly. This sequence matches a specific coordinate system used in astronomy. Deep space telemetry, to be precise. You're saying they're star coordinates? Something like that. Dr. Peters looked down at patient 37, who was watching them both intently. I've had my suspicions about this child since he arrived. His brain scans don't match any known human condition. The patterns are too organized, too complex. A chill ran down Megan's spine. What are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything yet, Dr. Peters said carefully. But I'd like to run some new tests. With your help, if you're willing. The day staff seem determined to do the minimum for this patient. I've noticed, Megan said dryly. Nurse Collins practically runs past this room during shift change. Speaking of Collins, Dr. Peters frowned. Have you noticed him acting strangely lately? He used to be quite professional, but the last few times I've been here, he seems hostile toward this patient. Megan thought back to earlier that evening when she had caught Frank staring into room 414 with an odd expression. He's always been uncomfortable around patient 37, but yes, he does seem more agitated lately. The baby made another small sound, and both adults turned to look at him. For a brief moment, the lines on his skin seemed to pulse with faint light. Did you see that? Megan whispered. Dr. Peters nodded slowly. I've seen it before, but never so clearly. It's happening more frequently. The overhead lights flickered suddenly. The heart monitor beside the crib showed a series of impossible readings before going blank. Down the hall, they heard an electronic door to the supply room open and close on its own. That's new, Dr. Peters said tensely. The equipment malfunctions are spreading beyond this room. The baby's eyes were wide open, fixed on the ceiling. His tiny hands moved in a pattern Megan now recognized was not random or uncoordinated, but deliberate. I think, Dr. Peters said quietly. Whatever is happening with him is accelerating. After Dr. Peters left, promising to return the next night. With specialized equipment, Megan continued her rounds. She couldn't stop thinking about their conversation and what it might mean. Near the end of her shift, Megan noticed Frank Collins entering room 414. Curious, she followed quietly and watched from the doorway as he disconnected the main monitoring equipment from patient 37's bed. Frank? What are you doing? She demanded, stepping into the room. He turned, and Megan stepped back in shock. Frank's eyes were glazed over, unfocused. The beacon must remain dormant, he said in a flat tone unlike his normal voice. Signal growing too strong. Interference patterns detected. Frank, what are you talking about? Megan moved toward the baby protectively. Collins blinked rapidly, then swayed on his feet. What? I was just... He looked down at the disconnected equipment in his hands with confusion. I don't remember coming in here. Before Megan could respond, Collins collapsed to the floor. She rushed to check his pulse, finding it rapid but steady. She called for help using the room's emergency button. As medical staff took Collins to the emergency department, a violent storm hit the city. Thunder shook the windows of the old hospital wing, and minutes later the power went out completely. In the sudden darkness, Megan used her phone's flashlight to make her way back to room 414. She needed to reconnect the baby's monitors to the backup power system. When the light from her phone fell across the crib, Megan gasped. Patient 37's entire body was glowing. The geometric patterns had spread, covering every inch of his skin with luminous blue lines that formed an intricate map of what looked like constellations. More shocking still, the baby was now sitting up, in the crib, something his medical file said was physically impossible for him. Those dark, intelligent eyes met hers, and Megan felt a strange sensation, like fingers gently touching her mind. "What are you?" she whispered again. The baby raised one glowing hand toward her, and in the darkness of the abandoned ward, everything Megan thought she knew about patient 37 was about to change. Morning light filtered through the windows of Pinewood Memorial Hospital as Megan ended her night shift. Frank Collins remained in the intensive care unit, confused and with no memory of his strange behavior. Hospital security had reviewed the YOWI footage from the abandoned ward, but the cameras had mysteriously stopped working during the power outage. Megan couldn't sleep when she got home. The image of patient 37 sitting up in his crib, body covered in glowing patterns, kept replaying in her mind. She had tried to take photos, but her phone camera had only captured blurry light. By evening, Megan arrived at the hospital early. She found Dr. Peters waiting for her, carrying a large case of equipment. "I've been researching all day," he said as they walked toward the abandoned ward. "Those numbers from your phone, they match coordinates in a star system 47 light years from Earth. A system with no officially discovered planets." "This is crazy," Megan whispered. "Are we really suggesting that baby isn't human?" Dr. Peters looked around to make sure no one could hear them. "I pulled his original medical scans. Look at these." He showed her his tablet. The brain scans of patient 37 showed unusual structures unlike anything Megan had seen in her nursing education. "And that's not all," Dr. Peters continued. "I found evidence that someone altered the official records. These first scans show something remarkable. What we thought were disabilities might actually be adaptations. His brain is 3 times larger than a normal human infant's, with areas that don't match any known human brain structure." They reached room 414. Patient 37 lay in his crib, appearing normal again. No glowing patterns, no sitting up. But his dark eyes tracked them with that same unsettling awareness. "Hello there," Megan said softly, approaching the crib. "We know you're special now. We want to help you." Dr. Peters set up his equipment, specialized sensors and monitoring devices not connected to the hospital's main system. "These should give us better readings without interference," he explained. As they worked, a woman in an expensive suit appeared at the doorway. "Dr. Peters? I'm Laura Bennett, hospital director. We need to talk about this patient." Her tone was pleasant but firm. Megan noticed 2 men in plain clothes standing in the hallway behind her. "Of course, Dr. Peters," replied cautiously. "What about him?" "I've reviewed the incident reports from last night. Power failures, equipment malfunctions, a staff member collapsing with no medical explanation." Bennett smiled tightly. "Public health protocols give me authority to transfer this patient to a specialized research facility immediately." "On what grounds?" Megan asked. "He hasn't been properly diagnosed yet." "Security concerns," Bennett said simply. "A transport team will arrive tomorrow morning. Until then, this room is restricted to essential personnel only." After Bennett left, Megan and Dr. Peters exchanged worried glances. Those weren't hospital administrators with her. Dr. Peters whispered. "Military, if I had to guess. Someone has been watching this patient. We need to learn more before tomorrow morning," Megan said urgently. "Can your equipment tell us anything?" They worked through the evening, recording unusual energy readings from the baby. At one point, Dr. Peters's specialized scanner detected complex brainwave patterns that he said were impossible for any human infant. As Megan's shift progressed, she noticed more people in plain clothes positioned throughout the hospital. They were trying to look casual, but their alert posture and communication earpieces gave them away. "They're getting ready for something," Dr. Peters said nervously. "Whatever this child is, someone important knows about it." Around midnight, Megan sat alone with patient 37 while Dr. Peters analyzed their data in the small office across the hall. She gently stroked the baby's hand, noticing how the geometric patterns on his skin seemed to respond to her touch, becoming slightly more visible. "What are you trying to tell us?" she asked quietly. "Why are you here?" The baby's dark eyes fixed on hers with piercing intensity. Suddenly, Megan felt a strange sensation, like a gentle pressure inside her mind. She gasped as unfamiliar thoughts that weren't her own formed in her consciousness. Guardian recognized, a soft voice whispered in her mind. Initialization sequence, commencing. The baby's skin began to transform, the geometric patterns emerging and glowing with increasing brightness. Unlike before, the patterns now seemed to be organizing themselves into new configurations. "Dr. Peters," Megan called out, not taking her eyes off the child. "Something's happening." The monitors in the room began displaying rapidly changing readings, before shutting down completely. The lights flickered and went out, but the room remained illuminated by the bright blue glow emanating from the baby's skin. Dr. Peters rushed in, stopping in his tracks at the sight. "My God," he whispered. The baby's skin had completely transformed, revealing a crystalline structure beneath that pulsed with energy. The human appearance seemed to be melting away, revealing something both beautiful and alien. Down the hallway they heard shouts and running footsteps. The military personnel were responding to the power failure. "They're coming," Dr. Peters said urgently. "They'll take him away." "We can't let that happen," Megan said, surprising herself with her protectiveness. "Not until we understand what's happening." As the first men in black tactical gear appeared at the doorway, weapons raised, a pulse of energy shot out from the baby's transformed body. The men froze in place, unable to move forward. A protective bubble of shimmering energy formed around the crib, expanding to include Megan, who stood beside it. Dr. Peters, who was near the door, remained outside the field. "Megan!" he called out, unable to reach her. Inside the protective bubble, Megan felt strangely calm. The voice in her mind returned, stronger now. "You showed compassion when others showed fear. You provided care beyond basic needs. You sought understanding rather than control." Images flooded Megan's mind. Stars, planets, vast ships moving between them. She saw beings of light and energy, watching Earth from a distance. She saw patient 37 being placed at the hospital door, specially designed to appear as a vulnerable human infant. "We needed to find humans capable of compassion toward the unknown," the voice continued. "Previous attempts at contact failed. Fear and aggression were the responses. This approach was designed to identify individuals who would care for a being regardless of utility or appearance." Megan understood now. "You're not disabled," she whispered to the transforming being before her. "You're developing, maturing." The crystalline form grew, reshaping itself. The protective field held firm as more security personnel gathered outside, their weapons and equipment useless against the energy barrier. "I am an ambassador," the voice in Megan's mind explained, "sent in a form that would be protected rather than feared, programmed to mature only when I identified a human worthy of first contact." Dr. Peters watched in awe from the other side of the barrier as the being continued to transform before their eyes. Hospital Director Bennett arrived with more officials, their faces showing a mix of fear and fascination. "What is happening?" Bennett demanded. Dr. Peters turned to her with a look of wonder. "I believe," he said slowly, "we're witnessing first contact." And they chose a nurse who showed kindness to a seemingly disabled baby as their ambassador to humanity. Inside the protective field, Megan stood face to face with what patient 37 was becoming, no longer afraid but filled with a sense of incredible possibility. Dawn broke over Pinewood Memorial Hospital as news vans gathered outside. The entire building had been evacuated except for the abandoned ward, now surrounded by military and scientific personnel. Inside room 414, Megan remained within the protective energy field with the being that had once been patient 37. The crystalline cocoon around the infant form had grown and reshaped through the night. It now stood about 4 feet tall with a humanoid shape. Its skin was iridescent, shifting colors like oil on water. Large eyes with multiple facets reflected light like diamonds. Dr. Peters had been allowed to stay, working with a government scientist named Dr. Olivia Kim to establish communication. They set up equipment just outside the energy barrier, trying to record and understand what was happening inside. "Can you hear me?" Dr. Kim called to Megan. "Are you all right?" Megan nodded. She felt strangely calm within the bubble of energy. "I'm fine, we're talking." "Talking?" Dr. Kim looked surprised. "How?" Megan tapped her temple. "In my mind, it's sharing information with me." Through their mental connection, the being was explaining its purpose to Megan. Images and concepts flowed into her mind, sometimes faster than she could process them. "They've been watching Earth for centuries," Megan told the scientists. "They're concerned about how quickly our technology is advancing compared to our ethical development." The being, who now identified itself as an emissary, showed Megan visions of their previous attempts at contact. Ships that humans had seen as threatening, probes that governments had tried to capture or destroy, communication attempts, interpreted as attacks or invasions. "This new approach was an experiment," Megan explained, "sending an ambassador in the most vulnerable human form to identify compassionate individuals." Dr. Kim typed rapidly on her tablet. "Ask if there are others like it on Earth." Megan didn't need to ask. The answer came immediately to her mind. Yes, hospitals across the globe received similar patients over the past year, but only here. "Did someone pass their test?" "The test?" Dr. Peters asked. "Providing genuine care and curiosity rather than just minimal attention," Megan said, understanding flowing through her from the emissary. "Most potential guardians failed by treating the beings as objects rather than living creatures deserving of compassion." Outside the ward, military officers were arguing with scientific advisors. Megan could see them through the windows of room 414, gesturing urgently. Some wanted to attempt breaking through the energy field, while others advocated for peaceful communication. The emissary's mental voice grew stronger in Megan's mind. It explained that humanity stood at a critical point in their development. Their quantum technology was approaching a threshold that would either enable them to join a community of spacefaring civilizations or potentially create instabilities that could affect nearby star systems. "It says we're about to make a breakthrough. That could be dangerous if we're not ready," Megan translated. "Our experiments with quantum technology are causing ripples that other civilizations can detect." Through their connection, the emissary shared glimpses of technologies beyond human imagination. Cures for diseases, sustainable energy systems, and propulsion methods that could take humans beyond their solar system. "Why me?" Megan asked, the being directly. "I'm just a nurse." The answer flowed into her mind. "Your role as a healer shows the best qualities of humanity. You provide care without expectation of return. You seek to understand before judging. You recognized complexity where others saw only deficiency." Dr. Kim approached the energy barrier carefully. "The military leaders are pushing for containment protocols. They're afraid." "Fear is expected," the emissary communicated through Megan. "But unnecessary. Had we wished harm, we possessed many simpler methods than this complex approach." A new group of people entered the ward, led by a woman in a formal suit. She introduced herself as Linda Carver, a diplomatic representative sent by the government. "We need to establish official contact," she explained to Dr. Peters and Dr. Kim. "This situation has reached the highest levels of government. Similar events are now being reported in hospitals in 7 other countries." The emissary's form shifted slightly, growing taller. The protective field began to expand, encompassing more of the room. "It's preparing to reveal itself more fully," Megan explained. "It wants to meet with a small group of representatives." Linda Carver looked nervous, but nodded. Who should be included? Through Megan, the emissary requested the presence of scientific, medical, and ethical leaders rather than military or political figures. "Those who seek understanding must come before those who seek advantage," Megan translated. As preparations began for this unprecedented meeting, Megan sat with the emissary, still connected through their mental link. It shared more of its purpose and the history of its civilization. They formed a coalition of spacefaring species, Megan told Dr. Peters during a brief break in their communication. They don't interfere with developing worlds unless those worlds develop technologies that could affect others. And we've reached that point? Dr. Peters asked. Megan nodded. Our quantum experiments are creating ripples in spacetime that can be detected many light years away. They're concerned we might accidentally create something dangerous before we understand the consequences. The emissary showed Megan visions of Earth's possible futures, one where humans joined a vast community of intelligent species, sharing knowledge and exploring the galaxy together, and another where fear and aggression led to isolation and eventual self-destruction. It wants to help us, Megan explained to the growing team of scientists. But only if we demonstrate readiness. They won't share technologies that could be weaponized by minds not prepared for them. Dr. Kim had been analyzing data from her instruments. The energy field it's generating, it's like nothing we've ever seen. It seems to be bending space-time at a quantum level. By afternoon, carefully selected representatives began arriving at the hospital. Renowned scientists, medical researchers, philosophers, and ethical leaders from around the world. They gathered in the main conference room of the hospital, waiting nervously for what would come next. The emissary communicated its plan to Megan. It wants to move to the conference room, she told Dr. Peters. It says it's ready to address the representatives directly. Is it safe? Dr. Peters asked. Yes, Megan said with certainty. It means no harm. As they prepared to leave room 414, Megan realized how dramatically her life had changed in just a few days. From a night nurse in an abandoned ward to humanity's first true contact with an alien intelligence. All because she had shown kindness to what appeared to be a disabled, forgotten child. The emissary, now fully transformed from its human baby, disguise, stood beside her. Its crystalline body pulsed with gentle light as the protective field expanded to create a path toward the conference room. Are you ready? Megan asked it, though she already knew the answer through their mental connection. In response, the being extended what appeared to be a hand toward her. We are ready to begin, it communicated. Together. 3 days after the transformation of patient 37, Pinewood Memorial Hospital became the center of world attention. News helicopters circled overhead. Crowds gathered behind military barriers. Inside the main conference room, representatives from major governments sat around a large table, watching the emissary with a mixture of awe and caution. The being's crystalline form glowed softly as it stood beside Megan. Its body had continued to evolve, becoming more defined and articulate. Though it could now produce sounds humans could hear, it still preferred to communicate through Megan, their mental link stronger than ever. Earth has been under evaluation for centuries, Megan translated, her voice calm despite the historic nature of the moment. What humans call UFO sightings were often observation missions. World leaders leaned forward, hanging on every word. Scientific advisors recorded everything. What we mistook for disabilities in the infant form were actually advanced sensory organs. Megan continued, sharing the emissary's thoughts. They were designed to measure human emotional responses and ethical reasoning. Dr. Olivia Kim raised her hand. Why choose a hospital, specifically an abandoned ward? The answer flowed, from the emissary to Megan. How a society treats its most vulnerable members, especially those with no apparent value, reveals its true nature. A military general spoke next. Were there strategic reasons for this approach? Testing our defenses? Your weapons have been observed and understood for decades, Megan translated. This mission had a different purpose. We have attempted direct contact 7 times in your history. Each attempt was met with fear or hostility. Through their connection, the emissary showed Megan images of previous contact attempts. Ships, approached by military aircraft, peaceful probes shot down, communication signals interpreted as threats. The infant form was designed to be non-threatening, Megan explained, to identify individuals capable of compassion toward the unknown and unexpected. Linda Carver, the diplomatic representative, asked, You mentioned other hospitals received similar beings. What happened to them? Most potential guardians failed, Megan said, receiving the information directly from the emissary. They provided only mechanical care without compassion or curiosity. Some were even cruel. The emissary revealed that Nurse Collins had been temporarily influenced as part of the test to see how Megan would respond to someone interfering with the baby's care. The hospital equipment had been manipulated to observe human problem-solving under stress. "You were testing us," said Dr. Peters, who sat near Megan. "Yes," Megan nodded, "but not to judge all of humanity by one person's actions, to find even one human capable of true acceptance of difference." The representatives discussed among themselves, some suspicious, others fascinated. Trust was building, slowly. To demonstrate good faith, the emissary projected images of scientific formulas onto the wall of the conference room. Dr. Kim examined them with growing excitement. "These appear to be cures for 3 diseases we've struggled with for decades," she announced. "And this one, it's a method for removing microplastics from oceans." The room buzzed with excitement. The alien being's form pulsed with brighter light, responding to the positive energy. Through Megan, it explained that full technological exchange would happen gradually. Each advancement would be shared only after humanity demonstrated responsible use of previous knowledge. "You stand at a crossroads," Megan translated. "Your quantum experiments are creating ripples in the fabric of reality that other civilizations can detect. If misused, these technologies could cause instabilities affecting nearby star systems." The scientific team asked detailed questions about the quantum technologies in question. Through Megan, the emissary provided enough information to help them understand the risks without giving them knowledge they weren't ready to use safely. As the meeting concluded, the framework of an agreement began to take shape. It would later become known as the Pinewood Protocol, a phased integration of Earth into the galactic community, with compassionate individuals like Megan serving as intermediaries between species. 1 year later, Megan stood on the observation deck of Earth's first diplomatic vessel. The ship had been built using a careful blend of human engineering and alien guidance, advanced enough to reach nearby star systems, but not so advanced that humans couldn't understand its principles. Dr. Peters joined her at the viewport. "Ready for the big journey?" he asked with a smile. Megan nodded, watching Earth grow smaller as they prepared for their first faster-than-light jump. "It still feels like a dream sometimes. One night I'm a nurse in an abandoned hospital ward. The next, I'm humanity's ambassador to the stars." The emissary, now permanently bonded to Megan through their mental connection, shared a feeling of approval. In the years since first contact, it had taught her much about its civilization and the wider galactic community. In return, Megan had helped the alien beings understand humanity's complexities and potential. The abandoned hospital ward had been transformed into the first interspecies medical exchange. There, human medical professionals learned to care for non-human patients, and alien medical knowledge was gradually integrated into human health care. Similar exchanges were occurring in other fields: sustainable energy, environmental restoration, space travel, and more. Each exchange was built on the Pinewood Protocol's core principle: advancement must be paired with wisdom. Not everyone on Earth welcomed the alien presence. Some governments and organizations remained suspicious, fearing loss of human independence. But the patience and non-threatening approach of the emissary's people had won over most of humanity. The ship's captain announced they were ready for the jump to the emissary's home system. Megan felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She would be the first human to see the alien world. "Do you think they'll accept me?" she asked Dr. Peters. "They chose you for a reason," he reminded her. "The same qualities that made you care for a seemingly disabled baby in a forgotten ward will serve you well as our ambassador." Through their mental link, the emissary shared images of its homeworld, a place of incredible beauty and technology, so advanced it seemed like magic. But what struck Megan most was the feeling that accompanied these images, a sense of welcome and acceptance. As the ship prepared for its historic jump, Megan reflected on how a single act of compassion had altered humanity's cosmic trajectory. The emissary had been clear about one thing: It wasn't humanity's technology that had opened the door to the stars, but their capacity for kindness toward the vulnerable and different. The message to humanity was clear. Technological advancement alone was insufficient for cosmic citizenship. It was their ability to care without expectation of return that had ultimately proven humanity's readiness. The stars streaked past as the ship accelerated. Beside Megan, unseen by others, the emissary's form glowed with anticipation of returning home. Not alone this time, but with a human who had seen past appearance to find connection. Together, they would build a bridge between worlds, founded not on power or technology but on the simplest and most profound of human qualities, compassion for the unknown.